Welcome to Channels Beam, where curiosity meets conversations, taking us a step further into the future we desire. I'm Sunas Nathaniel, and today we're going to be looking at re-establishing the role of women in Nigeria's transformation using tech, film, and photography. For those who do not know, March is the Women's History Month, a yearly observation that highlights the contributions of women to various events in history and contemporary society. It is in line with this that we will be having two phenomenal women joining us today to look at the issues, especially as it affects women and girls. All right? Right here with me in the studio, we have none other than Caroline Seaman, who is one very exceptional lady who's been playing a great role in advancing the cause of women. She's been there trying to establish their voices. She is a lawyer, a social entrepreneur, tech evangelist, filmmaker, and girl expert who currently serves as founder and creative director of Girls' Voices Initiative, a nonprofit that educates and empowers girls and women to identify and amplify their voices and advocate for their rights using tech and digital media. Caroline, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's not just going to be two of us. We also have joining us via Zoom, Ms. Tola Jimo, a seasoned expert in information security and generative AI with extensive experience in both consulting and industry. As a founder and chief information risk officer at Cyber Strategy Consulting Incorporated, Tola provides expert security advice to national entities, and she is actively involved in developing policies for various security sectors across Africa. Tola, it's a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, I'm going to start with you. Let us break the ice by dissecting the myths first. In some quarters where we have the myths that suggest that women, not just in Nigeria or Africa, but globally, that women do not really support each other and are perhaps the biggest enemy of each other. What do you say to that, Tola?
Absolutely wrong. I don't think that's true. In some ways, I know that we see those things happen where it looks like women are always at loggerheads, but I think it's more of the nurturing seed that we have. Women are known to nurture. Women are known to critique things. We have a sixth and seventh sense. I feel like women are we're like the eighth wonder of the world. And so sometimes these very boisterous qualities can come across, as maybe a little too straightforward in some women, maybe a little too strong as well. But I think as soon as a woman understands the power that she has and also applies a little bit of emotional intelligence to that, then it's easier to have those interpersonal skills and really be there for one another. Right. I think what I see now is men actually supporting themselves a lot more.
Okay, I see that, Caroline, you've been nodding. You've been nodding to that. Speak to that then. Let's hear you.
I couldn't agree more. I'm one of the proponents of the fact that anything you would call not supporting is not something that's peculiar to women. Men also are at loggerheads many times. They take each other out of businesses. Their partnerships don't work. Why is it only when it concerns women that it becomes a big deal, such that it even becomes a notion that women don't support one another? I think that's a human condition. There are times where we get really competitive. There are times where we get really in each other's way. And it's really just life. And it's about survival. And it's about thriving in the different spaces and ecosystems we find ourselves. So I really disagree with the fact that women don't support each other. We know women who are where they are today because a sister lifted their hands, a sister, created an opportunity, set up a connect. So women are there for each other.
All right.
And of course, like I said, it's a human condition. There will just be times where we're at each other's necks.
Okay.
I guess it's part of business.
That's a good way to kid in. So let me now ask you, all those bright, brilliant, and beautiful women, do you think they have been really given the role, the position, in the Nigerian sphere of things?
I think for women in Nigeria, I would say it's still evolving because coming from where this journey started, we know the whole journey of even getting the right to vote or even having a voice, at any table at all. And here we are today telling young girls to create their tables if they don't find spaces that are listening to them. So I think we're coming that long way as a people or as women. I think what we would say is the challenge now is the fact that it's still slow. It's still a bit too gradual, and it's hanging on a lot of challenges that are, of course, entrenched in our patriarchal system, the whole thing about inequality of gender, which is not a Nigeria peculiar problem, yeah, but really a global issue in itself. So I would say Nigeria is still navigating its own dynamics of how women evolve into leadership, women evolve into politics, women evolve into business. And yes, we're putting a lot of pressure on systems, we're demanding policies to work, implementation and all of that. It's going to take a process. But again, I think as women, we're really in each other's face right now. We're coming at you guys really boldly. Yes, because we're pushing for women's education. We're pushing to challenge social norms that have limited and marginalized women for years. And it's really just going to take us wading through all of those challenges. But the horizon is really pretty clear. Yes, we still have some statistics to be worried about when we are hearing it will take still another 100 and something years for women to achieve equality. But I feel like with the push that is happening today, and thanks to things like technology and digital media, we might just close that space a little faster than the fears are.
All right, it's beautiful that you have brought it. Let me go to Tola quickly. While I would want you to speak to the previous question, I want you to also attempt. You both are exceptional when it comes to tech. But you guys are also pursuing other passions. And the question would be, in what ways can maybe photography and filmmaking contribute to adding that balance, documenting and shedding more light on social economic challenges such as we have currently in Nigeria? I think that would be the question for me.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So I feel like the film industry has really, really grown. Also, the involvement of women in technical spheres, like even things like photography, is really growing. I feel like if we can channel more of our efforts into creating narratives and stories that showcase the involvement of women and the way women have excelled world over in places and fields that were predominantly male-dominated, I think that's one way that we can really bring that, awareness of what a woman is truly capable of. And I mean, we see our films we're making box offices, we're at film festivals here in Canada, in Nigeria. I feel like that's something that we can definitely create a narrative around to really showcase what we're doing today and how that whole sphere of women supporting women really is truly growing, and how women are also growing, because the media has become our biggest tool today. So social media, film, photography, not using those things to play to our advantage, then that can be a problem. So there's definitely leverage there that we can exploit.
All right. Let me come back to you, Caroline. You are very into film. So speak to the use of film. Speak to that.
For me, my passion with filmmaking is double-pronged. First and foremost, it's a bit biased in terms of really targeting women with technical skills, like she mentioned, because that's a gap we've had in Nigeria's ecosystem when we look at the film industry as a whole. We still have very few women editing films, for example, or carrying the camera, or recording sound or lighting, those technical aspects of filmmaking. And that for me is one of the first interests I have in terms of really building women's skills and capacity in the space. Secondly is also the part of building women's capacities to tell authentic stories, right? Because that's another huge gap we're having in our film landscape in Nigeria. We still have so many authentic stories to tell that have not even made the fore. Yes, we see a bit of folklore, evolving gradually now. But even women's challenges, engaging the entrepreneurship space, for example. Where are we telling those stories? Women have had really horrific experiences in politics. Where are we telling those authentic stories? Those stories that really move us to action in terms of saying, look, you've been embedded into another person's story and you really realize for once that something should be done, action should be taken. Because that's the power of storytelling, right? It helps us to just look at that situation or that perspective in a light that we probably haven't delved into because we haven't connected to that human angle of it.
True.
So I feel like there's that need for us to blend both, build women's capacities and create opportunities for them to tell these authentic stories, it will make a world of difference in terms of Nigeria's place when we look at global entertainment as a whole.
All right, you guys are dishing it. I'm really with some extra phenomenal women. Let me come back to Tola. You see, I saw luxury photography. Speak to luxury photography and the balance, work-life balance, kind of. I mean, you were there in the cybersecurity space. You are advising. You're giving policies. You're trying to shape policies and all that. How does a thing like luxury photography come into play?
Great question, and I get this all the time. So for me, photography is an expression of my creative space, an expression of art for me. First and foremost, I'm a being of art, and before I went into science, which was totally by accident, I had photography with me all the way. So when I started photography as a way to express myself in the art space and also kind of balance things out for me in terms of work-life balance, because anyone who lives abroad knows that work-life balance is such a big deal. You can earn all the money, but if you don't have like an outlet, then that could be a drawback for you just balancing yourself as a human being. So when I started my photography practice professionally a couple of years ago, I wanted to brand myself, in a space where I catered to a certain clientele, not because I don't think photography is for everyone, but because I had to fit it into my lifestyle at the time. I had to make sure that it worked for me from a work, life, and family perspective. And so over the years, it just happened. I started with the first client, next client, and I, somehow just had people of a certain background gravitate towards me. I photographed like the mayor, I photographed the premier. I've done a lot of photography within the very high-end space. And so I decided to brand myself as a luxury photographer. And that's kind of what people know me as today.
Okay. All right. Okay. I will come back to you shortly. Let me just go to Caroline in just 1 minute. Just tell me, what role has social media played, or what role is social media continuing to play in changing these narratives?
Social media is a game changer in our, world today, because a lot of the information that would have taken ages to get around the world just gets around at the press of a button. It's literally about, in fact, you don't even need to lift your phone anymore. The notifications just hit you. So it's like a wealth of information at your doorstep all at once. And particularly for the film industry, for the entertainment industry, you get to catch up with the latest trends, the latest technology, the latest skill, the latest new knowledge, the latest new gear. Like all of that information is at your doorstep at any given time. And it makes a world of difference, because it will have taken a lot of years for a typical Nigerian to be able to build skills, in videography or in photography. But you could get free courses online, you could know when trends are happening because people are posting on social media. You can get information about your work around in seconds. These days, we can even host events virtually, which allows people to be, like literally real time in your event, even if they're all around the world at the same time. So it's really been a game changer. It brings up its own issues, no doubt, but at least we're grateful for the fact that information gets to be circulated in real time and benefiting all, rich or poor, black or white,
right.
Wherever you are.
I'm gonna hold it there. I'm gonna come back, and Tola, you're gonna be taking us very much into the negative spaces of social media, where as regards how the portrayal of women. That's one very big issue I have, and we're going to come to that. We're going to be taking a quick break, and at this moment, when we return, we'll be looking more at, what I just said about, portrayal of women in film, photography, social media. We'll also be looking at the repositioning of women in leadership roles and in politics. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching The Beam, coming to you live from our studios in Abuja. Our guests, Carolina Seaman and Tola Jimoh, are still here with us, and we are looking at reestablishing the role of women in Nigeria's transformation using tech, film, and photography. Guys, it's been a wonderful one so far. Let's make it more. Let's speak more to some of those beautiful things in film and photography. I know before we left, we said we're coming to Tola, and we're saying, hey, the negatives, the stereotypes you see on social media, how do we confront this? How do we attack this? How do we push them away? Tola, are you with us? Okay, I think we're going to come back to Tola quickly. Karen, let's speak to film.
Yep.
There's a film festival coming on, and I want you to speak to that. How does it help shape the narrative, of women, our history? That's the women history, Nigeria's history. How does it all come together in that film festival?
Thank you for asking. A women's film festival. I know that is very interesting to hear happening in Nigeria.
Exactly, a women's film festival.
It's the Women's International Film Festival Nigeria. We acronym it WIFIN. It's a festival that launched in 2022, and at the time our goal was to curate a special space and platform for women filmmakers to connect, to learn together, to collaborate, explore opportunities to collaborate, and literally start to address issues that are peculiar to women filmmakers, right? When we launched in 2022, we had over 3,000 film submissions from over 130 countries, which spoke volumes for us as women filmmakers in Nigeria, because here we were just starting out something that we wanted to use to just build a community for women filmmakers in Nigeria. And we had women filmmakers just plugging in from different parts of the world. And that told us that women were looking for a platform like this. Women were actually out there producing films and telling really incredible stories. And so we're grateful for that platform, and we want to sustain that festival and continue to create an enabling environment for women filmmakers. This year, the theme is women, culture, and film.
Beautiful.
And it's very peculiar because it speaks to the question you asked. And for us, some of the discussions we want to have during the festival is really looking at our culture, right? We know culture is part of what has set women aback for years. We know that there are all the negative parts of culture, but there's also the positive part of it. And for us is how are we telling those stories? So we're having women who walk around the history and culture, of Nigeria, who are going to challenge some of even the famous folklores that we've come to know, and really question, was this really the case? Or is it only a situation of a one-sided story?
That's interesting.
Because
really
you never know. And research has shown, some things. So for example, we know that there are cultures in Nigeria where women have been leaders, women continue to be leaders today, but for some reason those stories are not getting out there, and they're not being able to challenge our minds to understand and value the role that women play in our leadership system. So those are some of the things we want to really talk about and really challenge women to go and research and tell some of these stories, because it will make a world of difference. We know all around the world, we know of famous films like The Woman King. It was a big celebration of Barbie, last year with all of the nominations. So these are conscious efforts that societies are beginning to take to project women's strength, to project women's leadership, and we don't want to be left behind in that mission. And I hope that at this festival we get to challenge women to start telling our own Nigeria peculiar stories of women's strength and women's leadership.
All right, thank you. That's beautiful. Let's come to Tola. Tola, we're going to ask you about the stereotyping on social media. But you see, I'm going to add to that question. After you've answered that, there's no way I'm going to take you without talking about cybersecurity and all the threats and all the places where you come in, especially with the fact that, you see, cables are being disrupted now, and we have internet issues. There's a going off and coming on and all that. So while you're going to deal with social media, deal with that too at the same time. Go ahead.
Amazing. So there's a lot of stereotypes about women on social media. Even the popular blogs, you see how women are bashed and how there seems to be an expectation that a woman needs to act and be a certain way. And while this is correct, we need to really embrace the fact that societal norms are changing, life is changing, and women are coming into a space of empowerment because we do realize that the woman is capable. And sometimes women are also shut down for having a voice. If you have a voice as a woman, you're seen as too confident. I was at a meeting yesterday where it was like a roundtable for women just speaking about the things that they've been through. And it was horrendous to really hear, even in North America, the kinds of things that are going on. Women have been told that they're too confident, or they come across as too confident, and so they're supposed to power down a little and just be mellow, because that's what the expectation is of women. We seem to forget that there are also a lot of places where women are playing really strong roles as breadwinners. Women are the ones who are really holding the home front together. And sometimes, I feel like women are unsung heroes because even the things that we naturally are built to do, and I don't want the men to say, oh, we're always coming and saying we're strong. But we are. The things that we're naturally built to do, I think that those things are worth celebrating. And I'm really excited that you're doing this today anyway, as part of the International Women's Month or Day. When it comes to like the issues of cybersecurity, women are starting to play a strong role. I'll be very honest, in that space, we're still a little bit marginalized, and that's why people like me are standing up to speak and provide that representation that other people need to see, other women in the minority space want to or need to see, to help them endear more towards their calling. It's still a space that is still strongly male dominated, and we're hoping that we can find a lot more women stepping into these roles. Notwithstanding, there are tons of women who are doing great things within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria in the internet cybersecurity space. And I'm super happy to see that. And hopefully all these things like outages would be slowly become a thing of the past. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
All right. Okay. So I want to just ask you this before I come back home. Oh, the internet is having issues and all that. But let me ask you, would you define yourself as a feminist?
Yeah. So that's a very tricky question. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I'm kidding. No. It depends on how you look at it. It depends on how you look at it. I'm definitely a female champion. I love to champion women and encourage women to really step into their power. On the other hand, there's a way we do things. Like we're DNA'd differently, right? And so I speak about the term feminist in a different way than the way I see it projected today. Again, that's another thing. What's the real meaning of being a feminist? And what exactly is social media projecting? Because I feel like the new generation has really taken the word feminist to a whole different level, such that sometimes I look at it and I'm like, this is a different interpretation from what I know it to be. So it depends on what angle you're coming from, really. I could be a feminist.
Okay, let's hear what Carolyn has to say about feminism. Go ahead, tell us. Are you a feminist?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Any day, anytime. And again, same way I addressed the first question. There's always that tendency that things are taken out of proportion and there are extremes to everything. It doesn't take away from the fact that there are ideals with certain constructs and certain notions. So yes, I am a feminist and a proud one at that. I'm unapologetically biased when it comes to women and girls' rights issues. And that's because I'm really aligned to the whole concept of gender equality and the need for us to achieve equity for women and girls especially, if we really want to close that gap. So yes, I would stand by that any day, any time. Mm-hmm. And yes, again, acknowledging that there are extremes, but I feel like we can deal with those issues as they come up. Okay,
so are there policies you're looking at right now that can be implemented that would give the girls and women and ladies, an extra chance?
Policies, Nigeria, we're great at signing up like every little policy and global instrument ever. So I feel like we have such, a whole bunch of laws and policies that will make a world of difference for women and girls. But in terms of priority, I probably will want to align with the Child's Right Act. And that's because I'm so passionate about the fact that a lot can be addressed when they're addressed early, right? The developmental stages of any human being, both boy and girl, are so critical. And if we can address a lot of issues at that point, you're able to already give any child the tools and the resources and the access that they need to improve their livelihood and their chances in their future. So I feel like we really need to see action in terms of the implementation of the Child's Right Act in Nigeria. Unfortunately, we're having challenges in terms of even the adaptation of the law at state level. So if only we could address some of those gaps and make sure that the rights of children are really protected, that we're able to address issues of child marriage, for example, we're able to address girls and boys' access to equal, access to education, and not just education, but quality education. And we're able to address some of those other harmful traditional practices that are really affecting girls at a young age, like female genital mutilation, and all of those things, widowhood practices, and all of those challenges. If we can see actual implementation on ground protecting girls, it will make a world of difference.
All right, coming to you, Tola, where do we go from there? You are a policy shaper in your own self too. So what are you thinking about? What are you projecting?
Yeah, I love the point that she made, really. I feel like we're great in Africa adopting policies. Every policy that seems to make sense to us, but I feel like we imbibe. But where I see the problem is in the implementation, really, implementation and monitoring. So as a policy developer myself, one of the things that you want to ensure is that policies are not just created, but who is ensuring that we're sticking to the tenets of this policy? Who is ensuring that those policies are maintained? Is there reporting? Is there reporting to show that, there is progress being made? For instance, the Child Act that she spoke about. What has been done in the last 5 years? What's the projection for tomorrow? So I feel like in terms of getting these tools into our toolbox, we're on the right track. I do, however, think that there needs to be some improvement by way of how we implement, administer, and monitor the policies if things are supposed to really change for the better.
All right, thank you very much, Kalin Siman and Tola Jimo, who joined us all the way from Canada. It's a lovely, lovely one. I'm really having fun talking to you guys. I wish we can continue, but our time is very limited. Thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. It was a delight having both ladies on the set today. It's a wrap on today's episode of The Beam. Thank you for watching and for staying tuned always. I'm Sunes Nathaniel. Till I come your way next week, let me, in the spirit of Maya Angelou, say, let no woman's head be lowered down, for in the arc of her back, in the sun of her smile, and in the grace of her style, this nation can indeed undergo a transformation to get back on the right track. Bye for now.